You know, it's gotta be one of the most recognizable statues on the entire planet. That silent sentinel with the body of a lion and the face of a king, just staring out across the desert. We are talking, of course, about the Great Sphinx of Giza.
I mean, just think about it. For 4,500 years, this colossal figure has watched empires rise and fall. And the craziest part? It wasn't built from blocks hauled from somewhere else. Nope, it was carved from a single, massive hunk of limestone bedrock. A true wonder of the ancient world.
And even though it's a face we all know so well, its story is just full of questions. So let's peel back the layers of sand and time and really dig into the enduring mysteries of this incredible monument.
And here's the real paradox of the Sphinx. It is one of the most studied statues in history, but the absolute basics, like who built it, when they built it, and why, are all still pretty much up for debate.
Get this, we don't even know what the ancient Egyptians who carved it actually called it. The name Sphinx is Greek, and it was given something like 2,000 years after it was built. We're also not totally sure what its purpose was, who the face is supposed to be, or even which pharaoh ordered it built in the first place.
So let's start with the biggest question of all, the ultimate ancient whodunit. Who gave the order to carve a mountain of rock into a god king?
Okay, so take a look at this comparison. On the left, we've got the Sphinx, and on the right, that's a confirmed statue of the Pharaoh Khafre. Now, for decades, the main theory has been that the Sphinx has his face. And yeah, you can see the resemblance, but is that enough to close the case?
Well, there are three main suspects in the lineup. Khafre is the frontrunner, mostly because his whole pyramid complex is right next door. But some Egyptologists argue for his father, Khufu, the guy who built the Great Pyramid. They say the style of the headdress fits his reign better. And then there's Khafre, Khafre's half-brother. The theory there is he might have built it to honor their dad, Khufu.
But here's the real kicker. As the Egyptologist Salim Hassan pointed out way back in 1949, despite all these theories, there is literally zero direct, written evidence from that time linking the Sphinx to Khafre or anyone else. Not one single hieroglyph from that era. The entire case, it's all circumstantial.
The mystery of who built it is matched only by the story of how it survived. Because for most of its 4,500-year history, the Sphinx wasn't some big tourist attraction. It was a lost monument, completely swallowed up by the very desert it was supposed to be watching over.
It's wild. Soon after the Old Kingdom fell, the Sphinx was basically forgotten, and the shifting sands just started bearing it. Over 1,000 years go by, and then a young prince, Thutmose IV, digs out its front paws. Then the Romans come along and clear it out again. But after their empire falls, the desert wins for another 1,400 years. It wasn't until 1936 that modern digs finally uncovered its full form.
And the transformation is just staggering. On the left, you see a photo from the 1880s, with just the head and neck peeking above the sand. And on the right, the massive, fully excavated monument we see today. It's just a powerful reminder of how close we came to losing it completely. And this granite slab right here is called the Dream Stele. Thutmose IV placed it between the Sphinx's paws, and it tells this incredible story. It says that as a young prince, he fell asleep in the Sphinx's shadow, and the monument actually spoke to him in a dream. It promised him the throne of Egypt if he would just clear away all the sand that was choking it. Well, he did, and he became pharaoh.
Now, a monument this old and this mysterious, it's going to attract some crazy stories. So let's do a quick lightning round and bust the most famous myth of them all.
I bet you've heard this one before, that Napoleon's troops, when they were in Egypt back in 1798, used the Sphinx's face for target practice and just blew its nose right off. It's a great story.
But it is completely 100% false. The nose was already missing long before Napoleon and his army ever saw the pyramids. And here's the proof, right here. This is a detailed sketch made by a Danish explorer in 1737. Look closely, no nose. This was drawn 61 years before Napoleon even got there. Case closed.
So what really happened to it? Well, the most credible account we have comes from a 15th century historian named al-Makrize. He wrote that back in 1378, a man named Muhammad Sayyim al-Dahir deliberately vandalized the statue, chipping the nose off because he was angry that local peasants were making offerings to the Sphinx, which he saw as a form of idolatry.
So, we've busted some myths, we've explored its history, but the Sphinx is far from done giving up its secrets. Even today, its physical body presents us with some really fascinating puzzles.
For one, archaeologists have found traces of red pigment on the face and hints of yellow and blue on the body, so it was probably once painted in these bright, almost comic book colors. And the ceremonial beard? Well, fragments of it are in museums, but some evidence suggests it might have been added way later. And maybe most intriguing of all, the Sphinx isn't completely sawed.
Yeah, that's right. Several passages and shafts have been found inside it. Back in 1837, an explorer drilled Perring's hole about 27 feet down behind the head before his equipment got hopelessly stuck. And then there's the mysterious rump passage near its tail, which was rediscovered in 1980. It just drops 16 feet straight down to the water table. And we have no idea who dug these passages or why.
It all just adds to the awe, doesn't it? When you step back and really think about the sheer scale, 73 meters, that's 240 feet long, and then you remember that this whole thing was shaped from one single piece of the earth, well, the mysteries only get deeper. The Sphinx has stood guard for millennia, a true riddle in stone. It survived being abandoned, buried, and even defaced. It has supposedly spoken to pharaohs in dreams, and it continues to baffle historians today. It really makes you wonder, after 4,500 years of silence, what other secrets could possibly be waiting just beneath the sand?